Hi, how are you? This is the Mindfully Integrative Show, and thanks so much for joining in for this mindful chat. This is Damaris Marie Grossman, and today we have a mindful chat with Ashley Grimes. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
You did say it right. I'm
Oh,
actually hyphenated though. It's
oh, it's
Ashley
hyphenated.
Grimes. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm calling her the cannabis queen, but she'll tell you more about herself. And I can't wait for you guys to learn more about this topic and how it can really help, the more education that you understand about cannabis. And I know that's not the only thing that she does, but she's an expert in this field. And I think when you become educated on what you need for your body, cannabis is a great therapeutic alternative. And now it's mostly legal in a lot of states. So I can't wait for you to learn more about this and understand why it is a great option for many things in your health.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate your time. And so let's kind of just talk about a little fun fact that someone may not know about you.
Fun fact about me. I have taken improv and I am in jazz dance right now.
Really, right now at this
Yes.
time?
Yes.
Oh, that's fun. So that's like a nice self care fun thing.
Before we were talking, I was like, I haven't exercised in 2 weeks. So I usually do gym, like traditional gym time, twice a
Yeah.
week. And then I do my jazz dance once a week. And so I didn't do anything last week because of the holiday, because it fell right on the day,
Yeah.
Thursday and the day before and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the week before, I had a conference in the middle of the week. So I felt like really icky until I
Oh,
went to
not off.
jazz dance yesterday. And I was like, yes, this is it. I feel so much
Good.
better now.
Oh, cool. See, then that's good. That's good. Okay. So then that's important. Yeah. So
Mhm.
you got it in there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it's like self-care is so important. It's a little jazz dance. That's cool. That's really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Get it in there.
It's my goal to I pitched the idea to the community coordinator where I do the jazz dance class, because usually they'll do like jazz dance in like segments, like 5 week segments, and you do a little short. I was like, no, put us on stage. Give me a glittery dress or something
Yeah,
and let's dance on stage.
that's cool. Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah,
we'll
I have like two left feet. Yeah. No, you wouldn't even. I'll go to classes, but you wouldn't see me dancing on a no.
see.
I could like in my mind, I think I'm dancing good, and then like you would probably see it on a video and be like, what the heck?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm probably in the same lane you are, but I don't care.
That's pretty funny. So let's chat about how and why you're here. I call it the integrative health space, mindfully integrative. Like, why would you consider yourself mindfully integrative in your space? Like, you're a cannabis queen. Heard. So, but what's your company and what is first off your full name, your company, and how did you kind of get into this?
Yeah, so my full name, Ashley Lynn Grimes. My business is Cannabis Nursing Solutions, and the goal is to help shift healthcare perspectives to be inclusive of like spiritual and holistic options. The focus, though, is generally cannabis, and only because when I started this, all I really knew about was cannabis, or that's what I wanted the focus to be. But as I started kind of digging into like cannabis medicine, I started realizing how mindfulness was important. I started realizing,
Yeah.
how alternative, acupuncture and yoga and all those things kind
Yeah.
of play a part into helping to optimize the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, absolutely. Because of the stress response.
Yep. And as I started learning that, I was like, whoa, like there's a whole, body system that we're overlooking, that we're not really paying much attention to, that we don't really know enough about. We don't really teach anybody about what we do know. And, it's largely a disservice to our patients and our populations, because they could be doing more to help support their own homeostasis. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about consuming cannabis.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah. The whole mind body connection.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So the goal is to educate other healthcare providers, as well as patients. But right now, my focus is healthcare providers, so that way they can start spreading the message with
Awesome.
confidence and enthusiasm and empowerment and things like that.
I mean, I think it's very important because I think that there's so many individuals that really are unaware and they're just afraid of just even the word cannabis.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a knowledge base, but I mean, I would say there's a bunch of people listening and those watching, that don't know whether a healthcare provider or not. And I mean, like we were saying just before, the cannabis, has been legalized in a lot of states and more and more.
Mhm.
But what kind of got you into that, cannabis specifically, like, oh, whether you liked it or didn't like it, what was it like that was like, okay, that was my draw to?
So it was my own personal experience kind of brought me to really the holistic side of wellness.
Uh-huh.
So, as a nurse on the floor, I went through a lot of just kind of difficult situations. I talk about it in my book, Stigmatized, but like I was on the floor, I dealt with postpartum depression, I dealt
Yeah.
with theft, I worked my way up into corporate, I worked in quality improvement for a 14 hospital system,
Hmm.
only to be told that because I needed to take my FMLA, that I probably wasn't a good fit because I wasn't hitting goals, right? And because I was experiencing all these things, I found myself in this place where I was like, wait a minute, 12 years, 10, 12 years have passed. I've achieved goals, but I haven't paid enough attention to myself where I'm sitting here and I can't even go to sleep at night,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Oh, goodness.
And so all of that just kind of spiraled out of control. And, finally I said, well, you know what? I'm going to start taking up yoga. I was in therapy too, but I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to start taking up.
Whenever, each part, you realize that there was something more that you
Yeah.
needed. The therapy wasn't enough, right? Or
Yeah.
the medicines, or you knew that there was something that needed to be done more.
Well, and because I'm a nurse, like I didn't really want to include doctors. Like I was like, no, I'm not I'm not dealing with these doctors, right? So I wanted to find something that I could have a little bit more control over,
Yeah.
because I felt like because of what I experienced as a healthcare provider, I didn't really trust the healthcare system. So I wanted to find something that I could do for myself. So I did a lot of research. I learned a lot. And so yoga was the first step.
Awesome.
And
Love
then
yoga.
I do too. I love it. And then as I started realizing that I had hips and stuff, I discovered the endocannabinoid system. And this is where I became appalled. I was like, wait, how am I a nurse? I've been a nurse for a decade. Like, how do I not know about this thing that exists within my own body, let
Right.
alone, for my patients? Like, how would I have helped my patients differently? So it just kind of became a rabbit hole after that, just kind of digging and
Yeah.
digging.
Once you find it, you can't undo it. As I tell
Yeah,
people, like, once I learned these things, it's like they're not undone.
yeah,
Hence
yeah.
why I obsessed even over this podcast. It's like once I learned so many things, I was like, nope, nope, I have to find out more people's stories about this, about different things.
Yes,
Because I mean, once you realize you found another solution for yourself, you're like, I can't be the only person.
exactly. And that was the thing I did. I felt like I was the only one, like I was the only one holding this like secret or something. And so Cannabis Nursing Solutions started as a side hustle where I just literally wanted to tell people what I knew. And so I created what I call is now the Cannabis Nursing Solutions training course. But it literally started with me just organizing how I dealt with people when I was educating them about cannabis, when I was just talking to them, you know, naturally. And so, yeah, that's how we came to be.
That's great. No, I mean, that's really, you kind of brought in something that people need and they want to know more about. And
Mhm.
like you're saying, I mean, your focus is healthcare professionals, but any person really needing some education in this could benefit.
Oh yeah, and to be honest with you, that's where I started. But then I quickly realized that I couldn't be the one teaching all the patients.
Right. Of course, you can't teach everyone.
Yeah, so I was like, well, if I teach healthcare providers, or if I get on places where my voice goes a little bit further, then it'll go further instead of the onesie twosie kind of thing. So
Well, I mean, you're part of that ripple effect. You're like maybe a big pebble, and then you're helping. Then they ripple out, and your conversations will go beyond.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll help profoundly. What was something in your cannabis education that was a key for you that helped you through your journey, your health journey?
For me, it was really it was. I mentioned it already, but the endocannabinoid system was really the key.
Hmm.
Because I mentioned like exercise is a big part of my health and wellness right now.
Hmm.
I didn't always prioritize it. Like I knew it was important. We talk about it all the time, but I didn't like recognize how important it was for just kind of achieving that balance within
Yeah.
myself, like mentally and spiritually and physically.
Right.
um, Being able to disconnect and unplug all those kind of things play a part in helping to optimize that endocannabinoid system. And so it also plays a part in how I eat now, and it also plays a part in just even how I approach stressful situations. So uh, I honestly think that was like the ding, 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 that one thing that was like, this is where we need to focus.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think it probably was, after years of going through a lot of pain and like stress, you probably were like, okay,
Yeah.
I gotta make change.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
And how many like in have you been? Are you across like the nation helping people all throughout your state? Through people can find you online.
Yeah, so people can find me online, www.cannabisnursingsolutions.com. But when it comes to patients, I focus here in Maryland because,
Mhm.
I can't cross state
Across state
boundaries.
lines, understandable. But clients, you have clients
Yeah.
all over the state, right? All over the country.
Yeah, so client wise, I do deal with healthcare professionals across the country. So helping to build
Awesome.
community, help them connect with each other, recognizing that they're not alone. Because when I first started in the space, I felt like I was holding a secret. And what I found is that there are a lot of people who feel the same way and they don't know where to go to find other people that believe what they believe in. Um, Generally, a lot of people who are interested in this space, the functional medicine, holistic medicine space, um, don't only believe in cannabis, but they also believe in other herbs, different mindfulness techniques, spiritual practices that are generally go under the radar, or seen as like quackery kind of thing. And
Mhm.
so those things are also stigmatized. So helping people to kind of overcome the stigma of just even having general conversation is kind of, I think, the first layer of addressing cannabis as a whole.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. I think that's why I very much so used to use the word just holistic. I definitely now use the word more integrative for me, as a provider and as a clinician and just in general with clients, because now I'm at a point where I tell people, it's never one thing. And I think like you said, this quackery conversation is things have um evidence, but may not always have a scientific evidence,
Right.
or they may take time. So I think it's a combination. There's never like a one off answer. And I think what you're bringing to the table and discussing with people is that, it's okay to talk about some things that may not be what may be the norm, but there has to be, that it had been working 5,000 years ago
Mm-hmm.
before there was pharmaceuticals. So some of this may work
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and such.
And just
That's
recognizing the nuance. And I think once we kind of pull some of these conversations out more mainstream, you can start
right.
seeing where the nuance is. Because I feel like, especially with these different practices, sometimes they're not being used in a way that, isn't the person's best interest too. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think there is space to be able to just kind of troubleshoot what does and doesn't work. And maybe, cannabis specifically, because I'm being kind of abstract. Like when you're consuming cannabis, you can overconsume, or it may not be a good option for you, or you may be, causing more harm than good in your consumption practices.
Mhm.
Right. And so while, the narrative when it comes from me generally is yes, cannabis is medicine. There is a lot of nuance that needs to be played a part in, but because it's been so under the radar for so long, the practices tend to kind of go to these extremes, and people just don't really know that that's where they are.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I think the education piece on that and understanding like everything has a harm and benefit, but kind of living, I think I tell people I live in the gray area of health. There's never a black and white.
Yeah.
Because with cannabis, like that aspect of what we're discussing, um maybe consumption is one, but how many there are different ways of taking in cannabis, right? And there's many different ways of consuming, or maybe there's not even a full spectrum, or,
Right.
that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
So, and people understanding that it has some safe effectiveness for
Mhm.
someone. Or some individuals, it may not be useful, but like you said, to have the conversation is better than not having a conversation, and living ignorance as bliss is not the best way.
Exactly. Exactly. Just deal with the stuff head on. It's just like, I mentioned the cyber theft. I could be hiding under a rock somewhere crying about cyber theft, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
you can confront the situation at hand and deal with it and the way it's been presented to you. So,
Yeah, I mean, I love having individuals like yourself on the podcast because I like and want to have conversations about different options out there for someone. Maybe today it's cannabis, maybe tomorrow it's, sitting out in the sun for some vitamin D. I just want people to try something that will be an option for them and not just sit with 10 pills in their cabinet and be like, that's what I've got to do for the rest of my life, when most of the healthiest people that you'll find out in the world have the least amount of medications.
yeah, yeah, seriously. And
Like, you know
I
what I
think
mean? So
that's the
it's
key.
like, yeah.
It's just expanding awareness is the key.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's like this conversation of it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to like accept the, not accept the norms,
Yeah.
and also discuss with your provider that you're working with, like, I need more help, or if it's not working, find someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I
Definitely.
mean, those conversations you probably have to have with people in general, right? The healthcare providers are those that come to you, the healthcare providers that do come to you are asking you for assistance. Is there a lot of more questions about the legality issues, or is it just more of they don't have any ideas about what to do?
It's a
Or is
little
it a
bit
little
of
bit
both.
everything?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So part of it is legality, but from nursing specifically, we have the National Council for State Boards of Nursing guidelines
Okay.
to help define what our roles and responsibilities are. So
Oh,
that's
national cannabis or
nationals, at NCSBN,
oh,
National.
and yes, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, can gotcha. No problem.
And then the other part of it is like maybe they use it on the low and they're
Yeah.
scared to say something about it because they're worried about their licensure and things of that nature. Or they are judging other people because they consume, because we grew up in this 80s,
Right.
the
Where it was.
war on drugs era. And
Mhm.
so, been programmed very well to think one thing, and now you're seeing this other thing happening right before your eyes. So being able to deal with that is kind of hard for them, overcome like certain mantras that kind of have been implanted in us. So recently a young woman came on and she was like, I want to prescribe, but um, you know, she said something about the drug dealers or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk through this, because you're taking it from a more 1980s perspective where it was this black market where you did have to kind of hide under the radar. You don't have to talk in this kind of subculture lingo anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Let's deal with it, and like let's pull out where you're meeting a barrier like psychologically about the concept of this cannabis, because um you can't prescribe or you can't certify patients if you are still grappling with the realities that are existing currently too, because then you can't educate.
No,
uh,
you're not probably educated on what's the right and wrong for something.
yeah.
And you got to yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, I did a little bit of education on training people with us, and I I think you have to stay neutral,
Yes, and it's our
and
responsibility.
know what the good and bad to everything is. There's no perfect,
Yeah.
or you probably have to do this all the time, the neutrality of it, because there's good and bad to it.
Mhm.
But on teaching people how to do it properly
Right. And
and use it properly, because it's very effective
yeah, yeah, it
for
is.
those that need it.
Yes. Um, yes. So addressing risk versus benefit,
Exactly.
addressing it with that neutrality, non-bias. That's our legal responsibility, is to address
Absolutely.
health and wellness with non-bias without imposing our own personal beliefs onto people's choices. Recognizing that people are choosing it regardless of your beliefs, whether you like it or you don't.
Hmm.
So just kind of confronting those things. Many times when we are like, how you have the drug seeking patient and you're like, the drug seeker, I don't feel like dealing with you, let me just come and bring you your dilaudid. That is judgment, that is bias, Because what if something else is going on with this patient, but you didn't even bother to explore with that patient, to
That's
figure
true.
out what was going on? You automatically assume that they were drug seeking. You automatically assume that maybe they weren't having pain, but they could have a whole liver failing. They could have a whole foot falling off, and you didn't even do your assessment because we're famous for that.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Cause I mean, you realize, I mean, well, we're talking cannabis here, but cannabis helps so much with chronic pain. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's such a great option for
Yeah,
those individuals, especially even if they are drug seeking.
yeah,
How do you get them off from drug seeking? Right?
yeah,
How do you change that brain pattern?
yeah.
It's a brain pattern, it's a behavior, and it's, it's in pain for something, like you said, whether it's a liver failure, cancer, whatever the issue is, there is that trigger, that point, that pain point is there for a reason.
Hmm.
Right. And it's like, and if you bring it back to that science part and they bring it and you unravel those layers, pain is still there,
Yes.
whether it's a behavior or not, right? Whether
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. So, just, and that's why the mission is that I want to help shift those healthcare perspectives, because we always want to address it with the it's just right or it's just wrong. But no, it's right for this patient,
awesome.
or it's not appropriate for that patient. You see
Mm-hmm,
what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying? And I think if we kind of fell into the art of nursing a little bit more, because that debate, art versus science behind nursing.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of lost the art of nursing, especially with the pandemic and having all these new graduates being short staffed and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I would just like to revive what is the art of nursing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that in itself is a pain point, right?
Yeah.
That in itself is there's so many healthcare providers that need to be heard and listened to, and your conversation, whether it's cannabis or just that overall new perspective, it's
Yeah.
important,
Yeah,
really important.
definitely.
So how can those reach you, and how can, is anything coming up for you?
Okay, so you can, uh, if you all are interested in learning more about me, you can get my book. It's called Stigmatized, where I talk about.
Stigmatized,
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, I didn't even say you're a book author, writer. Congratulations on
Oh,
that.
thank you.
Stigmatized, I'll put that in the show notes.
Cool. Yeah, so if you want to learn more, you can get the book Stigmatized is www.stigmatizedthebook.com. Where essentially I'm just addressing through my own personal story what stigma is and how I've overcome it and resilience. And then what was your other question? I forgot.
Oh, and then how they can reach you as your cannabis. I call you cannabis queen, but I know you're cannabis consultant,
Oh yeah. So if you
education.
want
Yeah.
to reach out to me, you can either follow me on Instagram at Cannabis Nursing Solutions. I do answer my inboxes. And if you want to go to my website, www.cannabisnursingsolutions.com, you can meet me there.
Awesome. And what organizations and conferences have you been at recently that you've been, speaking or been, involved in?
Um, Quite a few actually. So
Well,
the
that's
most
great.
recent Black Nurses Week,
Oh, cool. Awesome.
yeah, that's been a
Love
really
it.
good experience. I was at the National Council for Self-Insurers conference over the summertime.
How interesting.
Um,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know with the pandemics was changing, but I bet you've probably been to a bunch.
I had, well, some online, some in person. Those
Yeah.
two in particular were in person. I think a few weeks ago I went to the Women in Public Policy conference. That was
Oh, how
great.
cool. That's
Yeah,
great.
it was such a good experience. What else?
And have you found when you have the conversation more and more, have people been open, or when you introduce yourself as like a cannabis nurse and stuff, has it been for the most part, have you found that your stigma has been people have been better with it?
Okay, kind of.
Oh,
So people are genuinely interested
yeah,
now. At some point, as soon as they heard the word cannabis,
right.
it would kind of shut down. It would be the end of the conversation. Now it's a blank curiosity, like, huh, I
What is
didn't,
that?
yeah. And patients definitely are way more open to the idea of it. And those conversations go a lot cleaner than they once did. I remember, I think it was 2018 when I first started doing this. A young woman told me I was trying to kill her son, and I was like, huh? I don't know how this conversation equated to that in your mind, but okay.
Oh my, that's such a shame. But I'm glad that you kind of opened up their
Yeah.
mindset there.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on who is listening. Definitely what the intentions are, those kind of things. So most business owners, they think that is a genius idea. They're like, wow, why didn't I think of this? A lot of healthcare professionals are a little weary about it, if that's not already part of their realm of awareness. Um, and then, like I said, patients are more open now.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad people are having more of the conversation, you know what I mean? And just like you said, the education is so it's part of the key component of it. And they just need a little bit more, smiles and openness to what's going on, to your health. And that's what you're there to help them with.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Well, I'm so glad we got to chat and I really appreciate you being on and maybe at some point, you can do an education webinar more, a little something for the audience at some other point in our group.
I would love
But
to.
I really love for you to be on again.
Okay, definitely.
Thanks so much for being on and thank you guys for listening and make sure you find a mindful way each and every day.